Wasn't super stoked to touch on, but let's talk about the Halyna Hutchins situation regarding the film Rust. If you haven't heard already, a very, very unfortunate situation went down on the shooting of the film Rust, which resulted in the death of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins. A prop gun, or a real gun for that matter, a gun was shot on set that was thought to have been empty, or what's known as a cold gun, and ended up firing off a live round.
Santa Fe Fire and EMS, what's the location of the emergency?
Bonanza Creek Ranch has had two people accidentally shot on a movie set by a prop gun. We need help immediately.
Okay.
Bonanza Creek Ranch, come on.
Stay on the phone with me. We're going to get some help, okay?
Okay.
What is your name?
Mamie Mitchell.
Don't hang up, okay? Hold on just 1 second.
It sounds like somebody else is calling for two ambulances.
Somebody else is calling.
You better make good. Everybody should be. We need some help. Our director and our camerawoman has been shot.
So was it loaded with a real bullet or one?
I cannot tell you that.
Okay.
We have two injuries from a movie gun shot.
Okay. We're getting them out there already. Just stay on the phone with me, okay?
I just AD that yelled at me at lunch because asking about revisions. His mother, did you see him lean over my table and yell at me? He's supposed to check the guns. He's responsible for what happened in the company.
Now, Mimi?
No. I'm a script supervisor.
How many people were injured?
Two that I know of. I was sitting, we were rehearsing, and it went off, and I ran out. We all ran out. They were doubled over, the AD and the camera woman and the director. They're clearing the road for you to come back. We're back in the town. What's it called? We're back in the western town.
Is there any serious bleeding?
I don't know. I ran out of the building. What we
That's
needed.
fine. I still have to go through these, okay?
Hello?
Hi. I have a protocol of questions I need to ask. If you can just answer them the best you can, okay? Are they completely alert?
Yeah, they are alert.
Okay. What part of the body was injured?
I'm not sure. I'm not in there.
Okay, that's fine. Is there more than one wound?
I think there's one on two individuals.
One wound on two individuals? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sending the ambulance help you now. Stand line. I'll see exactly what to do next, okay?
Okay.
This is obviously a developing situation, and there are a lot of details that are unclear that we're still learning about after this search warrant, and this kind of helps clear the air on a bunch of those details. Actor Alec Baldwin's practicing removing a revolver from its holster and aiming toward the camera during rehearsal for the movie Rust when director Joel Souza heard what sounded like a whip and then a loud pop, according to a search warrant that provided grim new details about the final minutes of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins' life. In a newly released document obtained by the Los Angeles Times on Sunday night, Souza said the weapon had been described to him as a, quote, cold gun, meaning it did not have any live rounds. But the gun discharged, striking Hutchins in her chest and Souza in the right shoulder. Hutchins was pronounced dead at an Albuquerque hospital. The shooting took place after 6 members of the film crew walked off the set after complaining to the production company about payment and housing. Camera operator Reed Russell told Detective Joel Cano. The day started late because the production hired a replacement camera crew and was working with only one camera, Souza told the detective. Aside from Baldwin, Souza said 2 people were handling the gun for the scene. Armor Hannah Gutierrez Reed and Assistant Director Dave Halls, who handed the gun to Baldwin, the affidavit said. Because of COVID-19 safety protocols, Gutierrez Reed had set up 3 prop guns on a cart outside Bonanza Creek Ranch's church set. Halls did not know live rounds were in the gun that he handed to Baldwin. Halls yelled cold gun, according to the affidavit. Souza told the detective that cast and crew had been preparing for the scene before lunch, but then took a meal break away from the rehearsal area around 12:30 p.m. When they returned, Souza said he wasn't sure whether the gun was checked again. He also addressed the possibility of cast and crew bringing onto the set live ammunition and live rounds, which can include potentially dangerous blanks. Joel said as far as he knows, no one checked for live ammunition on their person prior and after the scenes are being filmed, the affidavit said. The only thing checked are the firearms to avoid live ammunition being in them. Joel stated there should never be live rounds whatsoever near or around the scene. As Baldwin was explaining how he was going to draw his gun, where the arm would be positioned, it discharged, Russell said. Souza said he was looking over Hutchins' shoulder when the gun discharged. Hutchins grabbed her midsection, stumbled backward, and was assisted to the ground, Souza told the detectives. Russell recalled hearing a loud bang and seeing a bloody Souza and hearing Hutchins say she couldn't feel her legs, the affidavit said. He's supposed to check the guns, Mitchell said on the 911 call. He's responsible for what happens on the set. Halls has come under scrutiny before. So in 2019, he was fired from the film Freedom's Path after a crew member had a minor and temporary injury when a prop gun, quote, unexpectedly discharged, according to a producer from the film. That same year, Halls was brought in to replace first assistant director Courtney Hope Thorond on the film The Pale Door after she was let go from the job. Said the Oklahoma production had many safety issues that she pushed back on, such as no safety plan for tornadoes in a tornado zone. That's when they brought in Dave because he had a reputation for being lax on safety. Thorond, apparently when the first AD walks off a project, Dave is the known guy as the guy you call. He has this demeanor that it's almost like he doesn't take anything seriously, said first camera assistant Lisa Long, who reported Hall's behavior. It got so bad that I had a meeting with production to tell them he didn't care about our safety and it wasn't right. Santa Fe County authorities are still trying to determine what kind of projectile killed Hutchins. The sheriff's office is looking into this case in a much greater scope as opposed to just the shooting that occurred on set and the loss of life. The investigators, along with the sheriff's office, are looking at everything that should have been followed from safety standards on down. The shooting came after crew members raised concern after safety conditions on the set. 2 Rust crew members told the Times that less than a week earlier, a stun double had fired 2 accidental prop gun discharges after being told the gun was cold. Rust Movie Productions said in a statement that the safety of its cast and crew is, quote, the top priority, and that it was not aware of official complaints raised about weapon safety and will conduct an internal review. On Sunday, the company said it would shut down film production during the investigation and did not rule out restarting. Follows other accidents that have happened on TV, movie sets, some in Hollywood. The greater community have called for sets to no longer have operational firearms, especially as muzzle fire can be added in post. So obviously one that a lot of people have brought up in the wake of this was the death of Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, some time ago. And kind of the main thing that people have been saying is that how can, after Brandon Lee's death, could this have happened? You know, like you would think that they would have learned. We're definitely going to look more into this, but just right off the bat, right off of all that information, it's extremely disappointing. And obviously this is something that could have been completely prevented. And there are protocols in place that prevent these sorts of things from happening. There's safety protocols that film sets have to go through, especially when dealing with weapons, especially operational weapons. Even prop guns, you still need to be careful because shit, you never know. Be careful, as this is a very developing situation. Be careful for a bunch of fake news that's floating around. I saw the other day that Alec for prison was trending. At the end, this is not Alec Baldwin's fault. He's not at fault. There's a lot of misinformation going around about that. And from what we can tell, the people blaming Alec Baldwin tended to be the more right-wing reactionary types who are potentially coming after Alec Baldwin because of certain political opinions he's come out with in the past. Also, I just found out this morning while I was editing that Donald Trump Jr. was selling merch that says "Guns don't kill people, Alec Baldwin kills people," which, to use this horrific situation to make a quick buck and make a fucking commentary or whatever just because you don't fucking like Alec Baldwin, like, sincerely, fuck you. He's recently taken down the shirts, like you can't find them anymore, but seriously, fuck that guy. My heart goes out to the Hutchins family, of course, and all those on set who had to experience this. I'm hoping for a speedy recovery of Joel Souza as well. And I mean, on top of that, just, I know mentally probably Alec Baldwin's not doing super great right now. the weight of something like this happening. Um, the weight of something like this happening is not easy to deal with, and I can completely understand if he's not in a super great place right now. But to my understanding, he's cooperating with police, and that's good. And I certainly hope. I mean, unless obviously something else comes out that he did something wrong in this situation, but based on the search warrant and the statement of Joel Souza, it's looking like it wasn't. Kind of the two people that they're really looking at right now is the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, and the assistant director Dave Halls. Now, they're saying that Reed then handed the gun to Halls, or made it available for Halls because of COVID safety protocols. He couldn't technically hand it to Halls. They were set out, and then Dave Halls handed the gun to Alec Baldwin. He specifically yelled, it says here, cold gun, according to the affidavit, which cold gun meaning that it's empty, there are no live rounds in it, which means chances are he didn't check it. Like it said here, there's now kind of a focus on the AD here. Especially after, like we read in here in this article about the search warrant, he has a history of negligence, and that he's kind of the guy when your AD walks off set that you call him, and he'll be lax about the safety precautions and whatnot, which is not good. And here's the thing, on a film set, there's a lot of exchanging of hands. There's a lot of people doing a lot of different things. So when you don't do your job, a lot can go wrong. And especially, like, I'm not necessarily putting any fault on director Souza's thing here, because when you're directing a movie, you have a lot of things to think about on the more creative end of things, which is why you have people like the first assistant director and the second assistant director to handle those sort of other things. You have a lot of different people on set handling these sorts of things, like the weapons and the just all that shit, so that way you can focus on the creative aspects. And when people like this, and if this is all true, when people like Halls come in and they nonchalantly do stuff, people get hurt, people die, especially when you're dealing with weapons like this. People will be injured due to negligence, and that's not okay. As someone who hopes to one day work within the film industry, it's extremely disappointing to see how this is the way that they're sort of handling these sorts of films and stuff like that. This is the way that they're handling shooting and bringing in people like this guy who has shown before that he doesn't give a shit. This obviously comes in the wake of the IATSE situation. They mentioned that a lot of crew members had walked off the set previously due to issues about payment and housing, and I couldn't pull up the article on here, but from what I understand, it was that they had issues with not being provided hotels close by to where they were shooting. Let me see, this was in Santa Fe County, and that the hotels provided to them were in Albuquerque, or that like they weren't being reimbursed for them or something like that. And that's like an hour-long drive. And that they were working 14-hour days and shit like that too. So that's the thing. And when studios can cut corners, they will cut corners. No matter what. They're gonna try to make the most amount of money by spending the least amount of money. And that's the thing. And what often happens in these situations, and like obviously as we saw with the whole John Deere situation as well, when union people leave, they're like, okay, we'll bring in non-union people. But here's the thing, those non-union people don't nearly know as much what they're doing. or don't do as good of a job. As we saw with John Deere, accidents happening the first fucking day. So obviously the crew had issues about safety as well as not being paid and their lodging. It's very unfortunate that this is what it resulted in. That because the studio wanted to cut corners, we now lost the life of an extremely talented cinematographer. If all these things about Dave Hall are true, I sincerely hope this was a hard fucking dose of reality for him, or that he chooses to never work on a film set again. Like, if he was truly negligent to the situation and he didn't check what he was supposed to, and even like the script supervisor said, he was yelling at her about revisions during lunch. If this is the type of person he is, and this is the way he goes about his work, sincerely fuck that guy. So last little bit of an update, there are some reports that some of the crew members took the set gun shooting with live ammunition just hours before the shooting happened. So if this is the case, it is extremely disappointing once again. And this does harken back to those workers that had walked off being replaced with these crew members that are more negligent and not as experienced. I really hope this brings about a lot of changes in the film industry. I don't think that something like this should ever happen again. But knowing how Hollywood works, knowing how greed and studios operate, what they're going to do is they're going to remember this for a little bit. They remember this for a couple years. And then just like Brandon Lee, they're going to forget about it. And they're going to cut corners again. There's going to be a good streak of, oh, cool, we haven't had an accident, like a major accident in years. Time to start fucking shit up again. It's really disappointing, and I'm really saddened that this had to happen.